It sounds like a bad thing, something you'd call the kid in class who wouldn't pipe down. But in today's world of fast-paced innovation, being a disruptor is seen as the key to success. Companies like Aereo, Warby Parker, and Uber are all disrupting their respective industry by introducing new business models that challenge the old guard. Uber, in particular, has caused a commotion in Boston with strong pushback from the establishment taxi industry. And Uber isn't the only transportation company making waves. In tonight's Focus Report, WGBH News reporter Stephanie Lydon looks at the perks and drawbacks of finding new ways of getting from A to B.
In cities across the globe and here at home, cab drivers are hoping to put the brakes on technology that is changing the way we get around. And they say flouting regulations.
Our drivers are suffering from the impact of Uber.
Startups like Uber allow you to tap your iPhone to hail a ride. Drivers show up in their own cars, in this case a Honda minivan. When Jose Santiago stopped to give me a ride in Kendall Square, he had been on the job less than a week. What did you have to do to become an Uber driver?
So you have to submit your driver's license, your registration, insurance, and then they do a background check on you.
Uber supplies Santiago with an iPhone, a set rate for each pickup, and a built-in 20% tip, all via credit card. And Santiago works where and when he wants.
It's part-time, so I'm doing this in the afternoons.
Meanwhile, across the street, a line of cabs waits for customers. What's the impact of Uber been on you?
Business-wise, it took a lot of business, of course.
Uber is testing out new waters too. A pilot project earlier this month allowed passengers to use the Uber app for a hop across Boston Harbor. The beep indicates a waiting passenger. Unlike on land, you need more than a license to drive a boat taxi. These captains are all Coast Guard certified employees of Boston Harbor Cruises.
We thought that Uber would be a great fit. They have wonderful technology. They have great customer service.
20 downtown.
Investors are betting that a combination of technology and customer service will fuel the success of Boston's newly launched Bridge Bus.
Is this downtown?
This is downtown, yes.
Check in with an iPhone, find a leather seat, and enjoy Wi-Fi access during what is touted as a quicker commute.
In 2 weeks, we've been able to reduce people's commutes by up to an hour round trip.
24-year-old Matt George, who graduated college a year ago, says his Bridge Bus is fueled by data.
We take that information from everywhere from government data sources to social media to some proprietary data sources that we have. We blend that all together into a sort of a proprietary heat map, and then we can introduce routes on a day-by-day basis based on where people are actually needing to go.
Short-term access to a set of wheels pioneered in Cambridge by Zipcar has become an increasingly competitive business. Car rental giant Enterprise now offers a service called Car Share.
Once the member gets the card, they make the reservation. It's activated through our system. They would simply press the card up to the window there.
The key is already in the car.
If you need it for 1 or 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever you need, just to go get the groceries or whatever you need, it's just convenient.
Technology, making it easy and maybe making new rules of the road. And of course, the big question for all of us tired of being stuck in traffic, will any of this ease the commute? And the answer, Emily, is maybe. Enterprise points out that car shares do reduce the number of cars on the road. Bridge Bus is really using that data to customize routes. So if there's people living in one neighborhood who need to get to another neighborhood, they can develop a route.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so do things like Bridge, Zipcar, Uber, do they also service the suburbs, or is this pretty much an urban thing?
Bridge is looking into service in the suburbs. As a matter of fact, they hope to have a bus that will go from the city, from the urban area, out to 128, where the founder has discovered that there are jobs that need to be filled, and he believes by bringing workers from the urban core out to 128, he'll be able to fulfill that gap.
All right, Stephanie Lydon, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
All right, well, my next guest has more than 15 years of transportation planning under his belt. Mark Chase was part of the team that founded Zipcar. He now works as a consultant and teaches at Tufts. Welcome to Greater Boston.
Thank you.
So the whole issue with Uber, is this whining on the part of the taxi industry, or has it really cut into them? And is there a sort of fair market attitude towards this? Or I know Cambridge is trying to regulate it. Where are we going to go with that?
Well, I'm sure it is impacting their business, and I think most people, including myself, have little sympathy for the taxi industry because they didn't embrace technology that Uber and Lyft has, and they've been slow to respond to embracing that technology. I think in a more free market, when your competitor comes in with these great new ways of doing a business, you're like, wow, how can I copy that? How can I make that happen in my cars? And I think some taxi companies around the U.S. have done that, but certainly in Boston, we're not seeing the adoption.
I mean, I haven't had that great luck with Uber myself, but isn't the bigger issue that the taxi industry is regulated? I mean, severely regulated. And that whole medallion system, talk about, antiquated, obsolete systems. These guys have to shell out this kind of money, but yet they are regulated.
Right.
What is the difference between the two businesses? I mean, why is one regulated and one not?
Well, they should both be regulated, but I think this is a real opportunity to look at those regulations and bring them into the 21st century. The medallion system seems to be really about protecting the medallion owners and not so much about protecting the customers, which I think has left the taxi industry vulnerable. Because if they had always been providing great service, then maybe we'd be more sympathetic to non-regulation, but their service hasn't been great. The Globe wrote an expose about a year ago that really unmasked all the problems in the taxi industry in Boston. So I think this is an opportunity to really look at that again and look at how we can better regulate the taxi industry.
I mean, it does seem to be like a free market thing. I mean, it seems like taxi drivers definitely have a better sense of the city. They know where they're going. They know a better route. I mean, it's a blanket statement, but true. Uber drivers are more personable. It's like that guy that Mr. Santiago that Stephanie stopped. I mean, it's a matter of choice.
Yeah, it is a matter of choice, and I do think that there's some baseline things that the government should pay attention to, such as insurance. How well are both taxis and Lyft and Uber and other ride-sharing companies insuring themselves to protect the driver, to protect the vehicle, and to protect the rider. And I think that's not quite clear. There seems to be a lot of buzz out in the planning and taxi world about how well people are actually insured.
So how has Uber, by the way, affected the business that you founded, Zipcar? And I mean, has it? It may very well have.
It's been a number of years since I've been involved with Zipcar. Zipcar's been 14 years now, and I think I was involved the first 6 years. But I would say they're complementary. Zipcar is more for the longer trips, and taxis have always been a complementary service to Zipcar for those short trips. If you really wanted to go to Cape Cod or something, you're not going to jump in an Uber. It would cost you a fortune. You'll take a Zipcar.
And is that industry regulated? The short-term rental, is that regulated at all?
That's pretty interesting. When it first started, it was neither prohibited or permitted, but over the 14 years, there have been regulations. In Somerville, for example, the cars really can only be located on the major arteries and not deep in the neighborhood. So
why?
I am not exactly sure. I think you'll have to ask the zoning director. I don't really understand that, but there is some regulation on car sharing. I think car sharing fit a niche that wasn't competitive at the time. Really, we're establishing a new kind of service, and Uber and Lyft are really competing with the taxi industry. And so I think there's a much more of a history of regulation of the taxi industry where there was really no history with Zipcar.
And things like Bridge and that's totally technology based, and it's smart, and it's group travel. It's a bus, but it cuts off all the stops. It's which is what everybody wants, right?
This is true, and the MBTA does, to its credit, have express bus services. They tend to be from further out, like Newton Corner, further out in the suburbs. Bridge is trying something unique, but I think time will tell whether they have a profitable business model. I mean, they haven't disclosed what they're going to charge, but it's probably going to be in the area of $5 or $6 a trip, and that's a different market than the MBTA. And I don't think it's going to be a huge market, but it might be a profitable market, and that would be, a new thing, a new option for people who maybe wouldn't have taken the bus before.
Certainly looks pleasant. All right, well, Mark Chase, thanks so much for your insight on this. Appreciate it.